God is writing your story. He did not forget you. He did not walk away. He did not mess up or accidentally switch your story with someone else's. I know that I felt that for about the first year and a half of our journey. I was so in denial. I thought God accidentally swapped my chapter with someone else's, and I was like, hey, when are you gonna realize that you walked away, you stopped writing? And the perspective I stand in now, God has been writing my story the entire time, and that He knew from the moment He thought me into existence and that this was part of my story, and He knows the resurrection that is coming. He knows how that's going to come and how it's going to impact me in my life.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Haley Yeager. I host the Truth and Fertility podcast. And before we get started with this interview, I want to share some exciting news that if you are watching this, and yes, I said watching, you will see that you can see my face. We are now on YouTube. I've been posting the podcast recordings on YouTube, but just with the regular thumbnail. Now you can see me and the person I'm interviewing. We have full video recording of every podcast episode. So head over to YouTube, to Truth and Fertility, subscribe to my channel. You'll see the background behind me is still a work in progress, so it'll be slowly changing over time, but this has been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to finally have this option available for you. I'll have the link in the show notes below for the YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed the upcoming interview. Welcome back to the Truth and Fertility podcast. I'm Haley Yeager. Today we're sitting down with Mari Wagner. She is the founder of West Coast Catholic and the host of the Everbee podcast. And we actually just met recently at the Seek 26 conference. And I'm so incredibly lucky to be sitting down with her today. I'm really excited for our conversation. We're going to be chatting all about seasons of waiting. So whether that is in a fertility journey, or I'm even thinking too, there's so many women out there that are waiting for their vocation or waiting for, for their health to change and to improve, or just any type of waiting. When we're in the season of waiting, how difficult that season can be, but we don't want to just write it off as we're just on pause and there's nothing I can do until something changes, right? We want to make sure that we're still being fruitful in these seasons. So that's our topic today. Mari, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm truly so honored to be here and so excited to talk about seasons of waiting. So yeah, thanks for having me. Like Haley said, I'm Mari Wagner. I am a lot of things. I am a Catholic wife, Catholic content creator, business owner, podcaster, lover of all beautiful and good things. And my husband and I, we started West Coast Catholic. It's a Catholic lifestyle brand back in 2018, where we started out with handmade rosaries, and then it has evolved to what people like to call it as the Catholic Magnolia brand. So just a lot of home, lifestyle, apparel, just really beautifully designed, faith-filled items to help you live a Christ-centered life. And essentially that's my mission, and everything I do is to minister to women mostly, and walk alongside them to live a Christ-centered life. So through my Instagram content or my podcast or digital products or our shop, that's really what I try to do in everything that I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. You are a woman of all trades. I mean, all the things that you're doing, it is truly amazing, everything you're doing, and all the, the inspiration and the beauty. I was looking at your website and just it is beautiful. It is objectively beautiful. It's just, the things you're producing is amazing. So I'm really glad that you're here. Let's just dive right into this first question of, when a woman, let's talk to the women that are in this season of waiting right now. And again, maybe it's for fertility to turn around and for that baby, or maybe I'm also really thinking about the women that want marriage so much, and that man the right one just has not come around yet. And you're sitting and you're thinking Lord, what's going on? What are you doing here? Mm-hmm. What in those seasons of waiting, maybe just top tips, or what should a woman be doing to, prepare themselves for that season to come and whatever that looks like, but to also make the most of that season itself?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I have reflected on over and over that comes to mind is how Jesus came to give us life abundant, life to the full. He says it in John 10:10. And what I have, right, is like how even these seasons of waiting are part of that plan and that gift of living life to the full. These seasons of waiting are part of God's plan for our lives. And as hard as it is to wrap our minds around that, right? Because suffering is so hard for us to grapple, it is part of God's good plan for our lives to live fully and abundantly. And so I have absolutely, I mean, I have so much compassion for women in seasons of waiting. I'm in one currently, and I absolutely have fallen into the thinking of that I know that a lot of women fall into, of my life will really start when, right? Like when I finally get the boyfriend, when I finally meet the one, when I finally get married, when I finally get the right job or have a baby, when we finally get to buy a house, whatever it is, whatever the next thing you're hoping for, praying for, that mentality of like my life will actually start then or like won't start until, that is a lie that I think is so easy to fall into, and that detracts us from living in the present moment. Because that's simply not true, right? Like God lives in the present moment. God meets us in the present moment. God is only like present. And Satan wants us to be stuck in either worrying about the past or being anxious about the future. And so when we live in one of those two states, we know immediately, like, this isn't where God wants me to be. God doesn't want me to be anxious about the future. He says that in Matthew 6. There's a whole thing, right? A whole do not worry passage. And he doesn't want me to be worrying about the past. God is in the present moment, and he has something in store for us every single day in the present moment. So how do I personally make the most of it? I make goals, I dream, and I make bucket lists. Like that's what I do to help me live in the present moment, because I won't lie, it's hard. Like emotionally, it's hard to long for something so much, pray for something so much, and even do so many things to try and get you to that end you're looking for, and for it still not to come to fruition. And I don't know if anybody else can relate out there, but like I'm an eldest daughter, and I'm like kind of a typical eldest daughter, and I'm a
Me
go-getter.
too.
Okay, I totally get it. I'm a go-getter, I'm driven, I'm very goal-oriented. So it's like I have learned in my life that if you work hard enough, you will achieve the thing you want. And when it comes to vocation, when it comes to even fertility, like because life is a gift that God is giving, like you can do so much and then you have to give it to God. You can't earn your way there, but you can't earn your spouse, right? It's like a gift freely given. So I've learned in my life, right, that like I can't, like at some point, right, like we can only do so much and then we have to give it to God. And other than that, right, we have to learn how to make the best of the present moment. And very practically, I make goals, dreams, bucket lists. I look at my life and I go like, what are the dreams that I have? And they don't have to wait for me to reach motherhood. What do I want to accomplish this year? How do I want this season to look like? And then I start writing those things down. Like for me, if it's not on paper, it's not going to come to fruition. And I think that's how a lot of people are. We have a lot of dreams, a lot of goals in the back of our mind that we're like, I hope one day. But the reality is like you can make these things come to other dreams come to life while you wait for like that one big dream to come to life in your life. So for me, like an example, a very practical example, like winters are hard. We started trying in December 4 years ago, and so when winter comes around, it's just that constant reminder that it's been another year that went by. And winters are just naturally gloomy and dark, and so I think it's like hard for a lot of people. But for me, I've come to know that. And so the last few years, or other seasons have been hard too. But when I know that that's coming and I'm going to feel that way, I try and get ahead of myself. I'm like, okay, like let's make a fall bucket list. Let's make a winter bucket list. Let's make a summer bucket list, whatever it is that you need. And that brings like a level of like joy and excitement into that season that allows me to live that season in my life in the day to day in a way where maybe I could have gotten stuck in my grief and my sadness and my suffering. Um, and I'll talk more about this later, but like, just want to have a disclaimer here too, like, sadness and suffering and grief, like, you absolutely should feel those and can feel those. And it's absolutely good to feel those. So it's not about wishing those away or ignoring those, but it's about finding the joy in the midst of our suffering and being able to hold both of those. Um, so yeah, so I write things down. I make goals with my husband. We try and do these bucket lists. One time I went to a coffee shop and had like a fun date with my sister-in-law where we like brought our watercolors and we like watercolored our bucket lists. And it was just like a fun way to
That
be
is
like,
so
"Oh,
fun.
I'm excited for this season and I'm going to
Yeah.
chase other dreams while I wait for my biggest dream, becoming a mother, to come around."
Yeah, yeah. It sounds to me like you already are a very proactive person. And it's funny that you're the oldest. I'm the oldest. I'm also very type A. I'm like, let's make a list.
Yeah.
Let's make sure, like, let's prioritize the list and
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
and then start knocking them off. So yeah, that to me, because I just feel like the temptation is exactly what you said, to say, okay, life hasn't started yet. Like, I'm on pause, life hasn't started yet. And in any season of life, no matter what changes, your life is going to look different, right? So don't plan for what's going to be different in a future season. Plan for this season now, what's coming up now. Make that bucket list to have something to look forward to.
Yes.
I think those are really, really good practical tips, and
Yeah.
just being, living
Yeah.
in the present moment. A question that I was kind of pondering as you were talking was, in your, maybe describing even your faith journey of where, leading up to where you are today,
Mhm.
do you see anything in how the Lord prepared you and was preparing your heart for a season of waiting? Like, was it something that, was it a skill or maybe a muscle that had to grow in your faith journey to be able to be as productive and present as you are today in this season of waiting? Like,
Mhm.
are you able to reflect a little bit on the past and how the Lord was preparing you to wait well?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there absolutely, there probably was, but I feel like the most work has been done like in the midst of it. This, our infertility journey is something we never saw coming. Like, we did NFP practitioner, right? Look at my charts and she's like, "Gosh, you are the most textbook client I have. Like, everything looks perfect." I had never had any problems
Mm.
or anything. And so it was like a complete surprise. So, in terms of like, was I prepared for this? No. Did I feel prepared in any way to walk with the Lord through this suffering and carry this cross? Not consciously. But I know there are ways the Lord worked in my heart leading up. There was one very, which I think is very unique. This isn't something everybody experiences. There was one moment where the Lord spoke to me very clearly before I was even engaged. I was dating Trey, and I was visiting him when he was a summer missionary in Hidden Lake. It's like a teen camp that Life Teen hosts, in Georgia.
Yeah, I was a missionary actually in college. I was a Life
Oh,
Teen missionary.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah, in California, but they do have the
okay.
Georgia one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was a missionary in Georgia, and visit him for
Awesome.
a weekend while he was out there, and while he was doing something with his team or whatever, I was in the chapel doing my holy hour. And weird moment where the Lord like spoke to my heart, not audibly, right? It's one of those moments where you just like feel a whisper in your heart. And he was just like, "I myself will be crucified in you, but fear not, for there will be a resurrection." And at that point in my
Wow.
life, I had never experienced any suffering in my life. I was very blessed. I had a beautiful family growing up, and um, pretty much anything I prayed for happened, right? Like, and like I said, like, I worked really hard in my life to get into the college that I wanted to get on the dance team. You know, we won state every year. Like, as a high school student, it was like my life was everything I wanted it to be. And in college, you know, met the guy, was dating, like, knew we were going to get married. And so in this moment when the Lord said that, I was like, "What Like, that is like deep and dark. And like, what do you mean you're going to be crucified in me? And like, what? So I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, are we going to break up? Like, is this not actually who I'm meant to marry? Like, is this going to be the big crucifixion, the big suffering? Um, and, Trey, I think, actually spoke about it with the priest, and the priest, he prophesied in some way and said something about like the Lord like wants you to be there for Mari, in pregnancy and fertility. Like and at that point we were just like, what are you even talking? Like, we had no idea what this meant, right? And then we got married. 9 months in, we started trying for a baby. And the years started to pile up, and we were just like so confused. And there was one particular night where it was very, very difficult. Um, I was ready to go in for some sort of hate medical things. And so I was like so anxious the night before, and I just decided to pull out my old prayer journals to find comfort or answers. Because I felt like this was like, I felt totally blindsided by the Lord. And I was like, there has to be a reason this is happening. Why is this happening? And I went in prayer and I opened my past prayer journals. And I literally, the first journal I opened up to this page that one summer where I wrote it down in my journal, and I wrote it down and I read, I myself will be crucified in you, but fear not, for there will be a resurrection. And in that moment, it's like everything clicked for me. And it was like, this is the cross God was talking about, that he prepared me for, right? I never knew, but he even gave me a warning years in advance, before I was even engaged, years in advance, to be like, there is a crucifixion that is coming. But what I love is that he didn't say you will be crucified. He said, I will be crucified in you, right? Like graft yourself to my cross and fear not, for there will be a resurrection. So I hold on to so much hope in that message that I was gifted with, where I know there will be a resurrection, and I know we cannot have the resurrection without the cross. So that was early on in our fertility journey, where I was like, wow, okay, there's purpose to what is happening here. And then, to answer a little bit more practically your question of like, how has he prepared you? Is there something he has placed on your heart to get you through this? Through the past 4 years, the Lord has taught me surrender and worked in my heart to know what true surrender is like, over and over and over again. There's been moments in my life where I felt like the Lord called me to a surrender, and each surrender than the last. And it's just like, you think it's over. You think one surrender is like that, the final ask, and then the next one comes and you're like, I thought we like already learned this lesson. Like, I don't need another one. But each one not only challenges me more, but brings me deeper into relationship with the Father, and actually bears more fruit than the last. And it is crazy to say this, Haley. Like, I couldn't say these things 1 year into our suffering, 2 years into our suffering. Like, it has been such a journey to get to this place. And like, yeah, I mean, just to walk you through the journey a little bit, like, my first surrender, I feel like, was being engaged and planning a wedding in the midst of COVID, which like can
What
seem
year did you get married?
2021.
20. Oh my
March
gosh. Oh
2021.
man.
But we got
Oh man.
engaged the day the world shut down. We got engaged in 2020 or 2020. Wait, was
Yeah.
it 2019? Yeah, 20
2020.
no, 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 no.
2020.
No, so sorry. We got engaged right before the world shut down. We got engaged December 2019, and then we picked a wedding date in March, the day the world shut down, for the next year. And so we were like, well, thank goodness it's going to be a whole year out, because like by then COVID won't exist. And oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it was such
Right.
a wild ride, right? So like, yeah, the Lord, like in that, like asked me, to surrender that. And then with our different decisions in our wedding, and moving and starting marriage and finances and our business, so much, like other moments where the Lord was like, surrender, trust me, surrender, trust me. And then our fertility, like, surrender, trust me. And then like years go by, like, surrender, trust me. And so many things that the Lord over the past few years surrender and learning that like surrender isn't losing sight of the plan, isn't like letting go of your dream. It's not wanting that anymore. It's trusting in God and who he is more than the things that he gives you. So growing in that throughout the years has helped me so much spiritually, to be able to kind of just walk in this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, I got goosebumps when you talked about like what the Lord said. Sometimes he does, like a lot, most of the time, I would say he's very quiet
Yes,
because that's how we hear him, is
totally.
in the quiet. And when we have so much noise, as we do as American women,
Uh-huh.
we have so much noise around us that we have to be so intentional about being quiet so we can hear him. And every once in a while, he will
He will.
speak so what seems to be so audibly. And
Yeah.
I love that he didn't just end it either with "I will be crucified in you," period. Like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't end in a period, it was a
Mm-hmm.
comma. And it
Mm-hmm.
said, and then the resurrection.
Yeah.
And I think that when we are undergoing suffering, whether it's, the suffering of infertility, or the suffering of a painful marriage, or the suffering of waiting for marriage, whatever it is, we can focus so much on the suffering of it.
Yeah.
And even and that's when we get the question, that like the ultimate question of, why does a good God allow suffering, right? And it's a question that I mean, I think most people struggle with. I myself struggle with. But that is the key, is what happens after the crucifixion. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just end there, right? There's a resurrection after that, and allowing, and sometimes that waiting for the resurrection. And even the resurrection may not look like the resurrection that we're expecting it to,
Oh
even,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
But yes, but recognizing, I think that that's the beauty of being Catholic or being Christian in general, is just recognizing that there is a purpose to our suffering, but being intentional about, I don't want to say chasing after that purpose, but just being intentional about, what are you doing with your suffering? Are you uniting it to the
Uh-huh.
crucifixion, or are you just letting yourself be wrapped up in it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that story in and of itself, like we could stop this recording right now, and everybody will have gotten something from this. I just got something from your story,
Oh,
so
I'm
thank
so
you so
glad.
much.
Yeah.
But because we have more time,
Yeah.
I want to ask you. You talked about surrender, and you talked about, in these moments of waiting, you truly do have to surrender the outcome and surrender the timeline. And especially when it's not something you can earn, right? We can earn an A+ on a test. We
Yep.
can earn a trophy or whatever it is. But with these types of things that are pure gift, we cannot earn. And that's actually good news, because it means we don't have to earn love from the God the
Mm-hmm.
Father. Like we don't have to, praise God, we don't have to
Thank
earn
goodness.
that. But when you are in that moment of suffering and
Mm-hmm.
of surrendering, what is the difference between surrendering the outcome versus just being passive about it? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference?
Yeah.
What does it look like, whether you are actually actively surrendering it,
Totally.
surrendering the waiting, in the waiting, versus just being passive and saying, it'll come when it'll come.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, surrender is actually, I feel very active in comparison. Like surrendering takes a lot of you and takes a lot of emotional and spiritual work to be able to hand everything over to God. Because surrendering, I don't know if you've ever done the surrender novena.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. It's so
Not
good.
often.
Not often enough, right? And it says, oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. The key in surrender is not to just let go, but it's actually to trust that Jesus is going to take care of it. So in surrender, our faith is built up so much more. And it's like I said this before, like it's built up in the identity of who God is, not what he gives us. And so it teaches us to trust his goodness and to know him for the good, loving father that he is, instead of like the giver of gifts, right? Like the answerer of my prayers. passive, like being passive is like giving up. To me, that sounds like, or like, there feels like there's no consolation there, right? Like you feel very helpless when you're being passive because you're just like, I'm gonna let it go because like I literally can't do anything and I hope it all works out. But like you don't walk away from that being feeling good about that, you know? And there is like a weird grace that comes when you actually surrender, which is hard to get to. Like there's been so many times where I sit there in prayer and I'm like, Lord, I surrender, but I don't actually mean it, you know? And there's times where I've had genuine surrenders where I'm like, I let go, Lord. Like, I am tired of trying to do it myself. I am tired of trying to convince you that my plan is better. Like, I'm going to try and just actually have faith that you are God, that I'm not, that your plan is better. And in those true moments of surrender, there is a weird peace and consolation that comes where you just know, like, if I know God is good, I know that He loves me. I know that He wants good for me. I know that He wants me to live life to the full. Then, like, what He has planned must be better than what I had planned for me. And that has been incredibly difficult for me. A planner, a go-getter, right? Like, I know what the future should look like. I have my plans, I have my timeline. And I'm really good at making plans, Haley. I'm really good at it. I'm so in prayer. I'm like, Lord, you gave me these gifts. You know I'm really good at this. Like, are you sure you don't want to take me up on my offer? Like, my timeline is like really incredible, Lord. Like,
My
like
plan's pretty good.
my plan's like pretty good. Trust me. Just trust me. And God probably just chuckles at me every time, like, oh, my daughter, when are you gonna learn? I am the original plan. Like, my plan is
Yeah.
truly better than yours will be. And
Yeah.
this is an extreme example that I used to use when I was a missionary with Focus, with my college girls that I would walk with. Even if God's plan for us was to be homeless and on the streets, if that was God's plan for us, we would be more joyful and more fulfilled living God's plan than if we lived how we live now. Like, in the end, the moral of the story is no matter how weird, how different, how crazy, how unexpected God's plan is for you, if you truly surrender and say, okay, Lord, I'm going to follow you wherever we go, that's going to bring you the most joy and fulfillment than anything else ever could.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I love that example because that it is so true that the grass is always greener, right? We can fall into that comparison mindset. We can fall into, well, if I just had this, or if I, yeah, on a much smaller scale. I'm thinking just in my own walk right now that my husband and I, we live in a very, very small house, and we're kind of growing out of it, and
Yeah.
we've been, and things when it rains, we have like 10 buckets throughout the house of like, because our roof is just so
Yeah.
but for one reason or another, we haven't been able to either move or do the things that we need to do on our house.
Yep.
And for so long, again, much smaller in comparison, much smaller suffering, but for so long I was thinking, okay, well, I'm just not going to touch that because my life won't start until I have this new house, or like you feel stuck and you're just like, well, I'm not going to plan for that until we have a new
Sure.
house, or I'm not going to plan for this until whatever the situation is. But it really is that active surrendering,
Yep.
and like using your brain. Like I say that all the time, especially when I'm working with clients, like teaching them how to chart and they're wanting to get pregnant or whatever. It's like, okay, yes, it is an absolute gift from God, and there are things that we cannot control, but He still gave you a brain, and He expects you to use it, right? And so it's do your due diligence on educating yourself on whatever health thing is going on.
Oh, yeah.
Find a good doctor, do the things that they're telling you to do, right?
Yep.
Actively moving toward that goal, but the end of that
Yep.
being out of our control.
Totally.
And the end of it is being what we what we need to surrender with our house, right? I can actively do the things we can save, we can follow Dave Ramsey, which is what that's a story for another time. But like we can do all the things that we need to do to prepare ourselves for that.
Uh-huh.
But the lesson in the waiting is, can you be content and joyful in this waiting, which isn't, I mean, it is a waiting for something else, but it's still in the present moment.
Mhm.
You're not stuck in the future, you're not stuck in the past, but how can you still be in the present moment, living your fullest life, doing those bucket lists, be like actively being joyful rather than falling into that comparison trap, and the grass is always greener. I'm wondering too, Mari, you talked about, you know, all at the very beginning, you talked about all the things that you do actively with making the bucket list or making the planning or planning for the season ahead. What is something, or maybe a few things that you do daily? Like what are smaller things that you strive to do daily to make sure that you're still in that active surrendering mode in the full picture of this season of waiting?
Yeah. The biggest thing is anchoring my day in prayer. Every single morning, that's my goal. That's what I strive to give God the first moments of my day. I truly try to pray 30 to 60 minutes a day every morning. It doesn't happen every morning, but it is my goal and it's what I strive for, because prayer is my lifeline to my relationship with Jesus. It's our lifeline to anyone's relationship with Jesus. If we don't spend time with him, speak to him, share our life with him, we won't get to know him and know his heart and grow in love for him and grow in relationship. And surrender is like not, true surrender is like not a natural, like human thing, right? Like we're finite beings and we want to find solutions like around us actively to our finite problems, and the Lord is an infinite being, and he is the one who is like all powerful and all good and all seeing, and like he's the one who has the answers to everything. And so like I can't fully surrender if I don't like fully know him. So to know him, to know his goodness, to rest in confidence in who he is, like I have to spend time in prayer every single day. So that is just a huge anchor in my life, of like how to practice this surrender every day. Like I said, the surrender novena is something I go back to, that it is so amazing. There was a time in my life where I just prayed it on repeat. Like 9 days would pass and I would just start it over. And truly so many graces from that. There is a small book I read. I think it's by Father Jacques Philippe, and I think it's got surrender in the title. So with those two pieces of information, try and look it up.
Use Google and use your brain that God gave you. You will find
Use
the
your
book.
brain.
I love Father Jacques Philippe.
Yeah, who doesn't? I'm pretty sure it is Father
Yeah.
Jacques Philippe, and I think it's called like 9-Day Retreat to Surrender or something. And it was really good. It's super short. I did that for the 9 days and truly felt a difference in my life. And then the other thing too that I think goes well here in this question, I was going to say it before, but it's coming back to me now, is it's kind of cliche maybe, but it's a gratitude, and it's focusing on gratitude. And I think there's times in my life where I've heard that and kind of just like cringed, and I'm just like, shut up, don't say that. Like what I'm going through is really hard, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
totally, like it is really hard what we're going through. And these seasons of waiting are so valid, to feel that weight of it. But at the same time, I actually have noticed a difference in how I approach my day-to-day life, and that ease and surrender when I focus on gratitude. And what I focus on, I mean, gratitude throughout my day, right? On a basic level, just gratitude for the things that the Lord is blessing me with now and today. But also, the biggest thing I hold on to is just reminding myself on one day, right? And like I'm just reminding myself that I'm probably going to be a mom for the majority of my life, and that these few years with just Trey and I, just my husband and I, are so minimal in comparison to the rest of our lives. And I love our life right now, despite the suffering and despite us yearning to be parents so badly. Like we love our life together, and we love and cherish every moment God is gifting us with right now. And once we changed our mindset to like, wow, God, like, why do you have us in this season? Like, why? To, wow, can we cherish the few years that we have in our marriage of just us two? Um, so many of our friends, and it's a good and beautiful thing, right? They got pregnant in their first year of marriage, and we get to celebrate them and support and love their families alongside them. And we also see the difficulthood and just how much sacrifice and surrender that requires. And I hope to have that one day in my life. Like I would love to suffer for my child one day, but at the same time, it's a little thing that I get to be like, what a gift it is that I get to sleep in with my husband. You know, what a gift it is that we
Absolutely.
get to travel, to, go abroad without having to worry about little things. What a gift it is that we are more in control of our time right now and get to spend a lot of time investing in our marriage. And our biggest focus is just our marriage, right? So there's a lot of gifts within this season of waiting that once I shifted my mindset to recognizing those gifts and to cherishing this time, it completely changed my demeanor.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also wondering too, and freedom to share as much or as little as
Yeah.
you'd like,
Hmm.
but how you talked about Trey, you've been talking about how, cherishing these times, this small season that you are just the two of you. How has this season of waiting affected you, like in your, or not you, but your marriage and Trey? Like, how have you seen a strengthening of your marriage by this being like, it's because it's, I mean, we talk about, we're both women, so we're talking about it. And I think a lot of times too, in this, whatever is going on with fertility for anybody, we focus a lot on the women, but we forget about it takes two to tango. Like we forget about the men and maybe the suffering that they're experiencing too. So can you speak into a little bit on how you guys have been able to be in this season of waiting together? How has it strengthened your marriage? What have you guys done to be intentional about doing this together, waiting together?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. One of just the biggest gifts and fruits that has been born from waiting and infertility has been just how close we have become in our marriage and how much it has strengthened our marriage, which is just another thing that I'm so grateful for, because grief and suffering can either tear you apart or make you closer than anything. And we have worked hard to lean into each other and to lean into God together. And through that, we have built truly like so much trust and intimacy in our relationship over the past 4 years of trying to grow our family together. Because people, as much as like you share parts of your suffering with friends, close friends or family, or even publicly to an extent, I've shared parts of our story on Instagram. No one sees what it's like behind closed doors. Like no one sees you over on the couch just completely broken down and your husband holding you, right? Like no one
Yeah.
sees those moments but your spouse. And so those moments are such an intimate opportunity to receive each other in grief and be like, I love you and I'm here for you. And I'm here either just to listen to you or to point you back to Christ or to give you logical things that we can, like whatever you learn to know, like, okay, in what different moments of suffering and grief, like, do we need different things? Sometimes we just need to cry it out and it makes us feel better. Sometimes we need to hear the logical thing of like, look at all the things that are on our list to do that we can work on medically and in our health that like we still haven't even touched yet. Like there's so much hope. There's times when like what you need is like a pep talk of just like, like God is good and God's doing so much in our lives and like he holds us in our suffering, and to learn how to support each other in each of our suffering and each of our journeys with this has been so, yeah, intimate is like the word that I can use. And I know that like we've reached a level of trust and intimacy that like we would not have reached or like could not have been reached except for through suffering. Um, and also just so much like love and appreciation for the other person. I think especially when it comes to infertility, depending on who, where you're finding a lot of the roadblocks, like as a woman, we can be like, wow, like this is my fault. I'm so sorry. Like there's been times where I've gotten to that point where I'm like, I'm so sorry, Trey. Like I'm sorry that this is happening to you because of me. Like I'm sorry that you have to deal with my body, or that you had to, like, that you didn't know this was coming when you married me. Like I'm so sorry. Trust and intimacy and love is built because he looks at me and he's just like, stop.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
literally gonna get emotional talking about it, but he's just like, you don't have to apologize for who you are. You don't have to apologize for how God made you. Like, none of this has been your fault. None of this is your wrongdoing. And like, I choose to love you regardless of what our fertility looks like right now. I rejoice in our marriage regardless of what, like, the number of children we have right now. And like, I didn't choose to marry you because you were going to bear my children. Like, I chose to marry you because I loved the person that you were, and I knew you were the person God called me to run to heaven towards. And so those moments where we just like, yeah, are just like, stuck in our grief, our spouse is the one that can like pull us out and point us back.
Yeah. You have an amazing husband. Like, how
Truly.
beautiful. Even, wow. I'm sitting in what you're saying, and I'm so, you talked about gratitude earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are in those moments of suffering, it can be so hard to find something to be grateful for. And honestly,
Yeah.
I've been there too, where you're in an intense moment of suffering and you're like, gratitude? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you want me to be grateful for something? But but my therapist keeps telling me that I need to be grateful for things, and that's going to overcome this, not overcome the suffering, but at least make it intentional. And that is exactly what it is surrendering in gratitude, finding the things that are good around you, because we can focus so easily. I can focus so easily on what is going wrong around me, especially I'm a total fixer.
Yeah.
And especially in my marriage, but even just in regular relationships around me, the Lord has had to teach me that I can't fix people. I can fix problems, but I can't fix people. And that is the exact, of the letting go of that suffering. And then also too, just the beauty of your husband saying, you are not broken. I love you no matter what is or is not happening. And him holding you during that time. And it is, as you said too, it is ugly when you're in like ugly crying and you're realizing that you have no control over this and having to surrender. It is an ugly surrender, but the crucifixion also was pretty ugly too. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've seen Passion of the Christ. Like, anybody who hasn't, I don't think I've watched. I try to watch it every Good Friday, but sometimes it just doesn't happen because I just can't.
Really,
like, you have to.
This might come as a surprise. It usually shocks everybody. I have never seen it. I literally have never seen it because it's just so hilarious. Like, I have always avoided suffering my whole life. I literally hate suffering.
Yes.
And it is, it weighs really heavily on me. And so like, I can't watch like really dark things. I have like a really hard time with like really hard, like news head, or what's it called? Like headline news. That's like
Headlines.
tragic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I literally haven't watched The Passion of Christ because I have heard how difficult it is to watch. And I'm like, I haven't even watched like the very last couple episodes of The Chosen, although I love The Chosen so hard. And I'm like, I can't see Jesus be crucified. So yeah, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it is. Yeah. But then, having that good husband that's there to
gift.
walk with you through that too. It is such a gift. And I keep going back to the thought too. You said that you're kind of the first suffering really that you experienced was engagement. And for you, I mean, yes, it was COVID, but I have not heard of one, at least Catholic engagement, that hasn't been a total like
It's hard.
as show. I mean,
Yeah,
it is
it's hard.
it is so hard, but it's honestly, I think it's just preparing us for it.
100.
Marriage is so awesome and so good, and it is so hard
Mhm,
with whatever cross that you're
mhm.
given in that marriage. And yeah, but allowing it to bring the two of you closer rather than letting it, put a wedge between you, because you see that too, right? There's really
Totally.
two ways that this can go. You guys aren't going to be the same after this. You're
Mm,
either going to be farther apart, or you're going to be closer than ever.
mhm.
And by God's grace, we can strive to be closer than ever, and
Yeah.
just hold each other in our suffering, and just
Yeah.
feeling the suffering you talked about earlier too, not dismissing the bad feelings, not dismissing the sadness or fear or whatever that feeling may be, feeling it, but then in that feeling surrendering it. So your
Mhm.
story is really, really beautiful and inspiring,
Thank you.
and praise God for your husband and just how supportive he's been for you too. That's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for him.
Yeah. 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 Well, as we wrap up, why don't we end with, let's say that there's a woman let's say we're talking to Mari 4 years ago. What do you want to tell her? What do you want to tell a listener that is similar to you, and in this season of waiting, struggling,
Mhm.
and struggling to even see God is good in this suffering,
I
right?
know.
What do you want to tell her?
Yeah. God is writing your story. He did not forget you. He did not walk away. He did not mess up or accidentally switch your story with someone else's. I know that I felt that for about like the first year and a half of our journey. I was so in denial. I was like, this isn't happening to me. This isn't real. God messed up. Like I thought God accidentally swapped my chapter with someone else's, and I was like, "Hey, when are you going to realize that like you walked away, you stopped writing. Like you picked up the pen and you stopped writing this incredible story we had going and you just forgot about me." And because of that, now I'm screwed. Like now I got someone else's bad story. Um and the perspective I stand in now, and so much has happened in the last 4 years that has made it so clear that God has been writing my story the entire time, and that He knew from the moment He thought me into existence that this was coming and that this was part of my story. And He knows the resurrection that is coming. He knows how that's going to come and how it's going to impact me in my life. um and we just, in our humanity and our littleness, like we just don't see that. And that is the biggest act of trust we can make, is to just know that like is good and that He has a plan. um and the biggest advice I have is seek first the kingdom and His righteousness, and everything else will be given to you. That's my favorite Bible verse. It's the verse I anchor my whole life in, Matthew 6:33. If we orient our entire life towards seeking heaven, seeking the kingdom, everything else is going to work out. Like that's what gives me peace, to like a very like type A planner type of person, and who's trying to figure out how everything's going to work out. It's like all you have to set your mind on is like living for Christ, living a life worthy of heaven, and like everything's going to fall into place. And it's much easier said than done. It takes a lot of surrender, definitely letting go of control. But I know the Lord has written a beautiful story in my life. I know He didn't walk away, and I know that for the woman who's going through this right now and feels really stuck as well, I know that that is true for them. Um, and one day it will unfold and we'll see that. And maybe it'll be on this side of heaven. Maybe it will be hopefully when we get to heaven and we get to see the fullness of why it all had to happen. But the Lord is absolutely writing your story, and it is good.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Mari. That was So inspiring. At least, I mean, I know to me, it was incredibly inspiring. And I know to our listeners, it's just, yeah, it's really going to be so inspiring to them. So thank you so, so much for sharing. If somebody wants to find you, I know you have a really thriving social media account and you've got your podcast and everything. So tell us all the things and where we can find you.
Yes, exactly. So my personal account on social media is at mari.c.wagner. Our business, West Coast Catholic, is at West Coast Catholic. The podcast is at Everbe Podcast. That's all of the Instagrams that I have. And then our website, you can shop our Catholic lifestyle brand at westcoastcatholic.co.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mari.
Thanks, Haley.